Hey everyone, it's the Vitality Junkie here, and welcome to this first video in this 10-part series on intuitive eating. I wanted to create this video series because I wanted to be able to explain to everyone that there is a possibility and there is absolutely a different option to eating than dieting. And one of the first principles to intuitive eating, the first principle, is rejecting the diet mentality. So that's what I'm going to be covering in this video today. And the reason why intuitive eating hits home for me is because I didn't realize up until I actually read the book Intuitive Eating by Evelyn, Tribole and Elyse Resch. I didn't realize that I was actually an intuitive eater. But I wasn't born an intuitive eater, and I certainly went through a lot of struggles that some of you may have found yourself going through or even going through right now. So when I first moved away from home and I was in my early 20s, I had the same mentality as everyone else, based on our culture, based on what was happening in the world around us, that certain foods had to be restricted from your diet, and dieting was the way to go, and it was the quick fix. And I wouldn't have considered myself a dieter because I wasn't following a particular diet per se. I wasn't on the Atkins diet or on the Mediterranean diet or anything like that. But I was certainly restricting foods. I was worried about calories, and I was having all those feelings that you get from dieting, feelings of failure, feelings of guilt when you would eat something, or feelings of deprivation. And so I decided to take it upon myself to see a dietitian, because that was the person who was going to know and explain to me the best way to eat. And so when I met with her, we basically went through kind of what a normal day of eating would look like for me, and we chatted about kind of, I would have salads, but I wouldn't have salad dressing on my salads, or I would have pasta but no sauce. And she was asking me why I wouldn't have those things on my foods, and I told her I thought it was fattening. And she quickly educated me that I don't have to be restrictive with my food. Variety, balance, choosing healthy options most of the time was how it would work. And that's when kind of my intuitive eater in me started to grow. And I've developed a lot since then in the last 20 years. And I wanted to basically shorten that time frame for you guys and explain to you how intuitive eating works, and in this video, how to reject the diet mentality so that you don't have to go through this yet again. So I do have a board here with some notes, so I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So if you see my eyes going that way, that's what I'm doing. But I also wanted to chat a little bit about our culture, because if you think about our ancestors or cultures where there's no obesity or very low obesity, those people view food in a very different way than we view food here. When you think about cultures like Japan or Italy, they view food as a time to celebrate and a time for connection and being social and enjoyment. And they're not thinking about how the food on the table is making them fat, or that they need to cut out carbs, or that they need to go to the gym after because what they ate was too much. They're not thinking about those things. They're just eating and enjoying themselves. And then here in our culture now, food it gets in the way. It's kind of an afterthought. People are eating on the go. They're not thinking about what they're going to eat. And when they do eat, it's stressful. They're having those feelings, like I mentioned, of failure and deprivation. And we're so busy creating foods that come in packages and make it quick for people. Yet these foods are killing us. And it is possible to actually be eating a ton of food and still be starving yourself. Our bodies require certain nutrients, certain vitamins, certain minerals to perform all the functions and all the processes that happen in our bodies. And when we're eating foods like packaged foods and processed foods, and we're not eating fruits and vegetables and proteins that are nourishing our bodies are starving for those nutrients. They're starving for those vitamins and minerals. And so we're actually starving ourselves, even though we're eating a ton of food and we're walking around looking maybe we're obese or overweight, but we're still starving ourselves. And when our bodies are missing all those nutrients and vitamins and minerals, certain processes in our bodies can't happen, and that's when illness and disease starts to happen. So we have to really pay attention to the fact that our food should be not only a time of celebration and time of enjoyment, but it's also helping take care of us, and it's how we stay alive. So we need to make sure that most of the time that we're fueling our bodies with the right healthy foods. But as you'll see with intuitive eating, you're still able to enjoy some of those other foods and just be listening to your body. But we'll talk more about that in a second. So reject the diet mentality. So how do you do that? First step is recognize that diets just don't work. Not only are they wreaking havoc on us mentally by giving us feelings of guilt and deprivation and feelings of failure, they're also weighing on us physically. Anyone that's gone on a diet will start to find that maybe they don't have enough energy because they're not eating enough food. Perhaps you're on a low carb diet, so now your body's using the next fuel source, which is protein. Well, if our bodies are using protein for fuel instead of what's supposed to be doing, which is help building our muscles and our hair and our bones and our teeth and all that kind of stuff, you're taking away from what it needs to be doing. And on top of that, protein is basically our muscle, and when you have muscle on your body, you actually burn more calories, or you have a higher metabolism. But when your body's using the protein instead of building the muscle, which is it's supposed to be doing, it's using the protein for energy, and then you're lowering your metabolism. And not only that, but when you restrict foods from your diet, your body starts to think that it's starving, which we talked about a little bit ago. And so when it thinks it's starving, it does what it's supposed to do. It protects you. And so it lowers your metabolism because it doesn't know when it's going to get food next. And then it holds on to what you have. So any fat that you have on your body's now clinging to that fat because it's afraid that it's not going to get the food that it needs. So your body's following the natural reactions it's supposed to. And if you really think about it, there's people in this world that are starving because they don't have access to food. And here we are starving our bodies of the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals it needs because we're worried about getting fat and we're worried about our culture and the way we look. And so reject the diet mentality, and the first step is recognizing that diets don't work. And on top of it, there have been studies that show that 49% of people who've come off a diet are going to binge eat and gain weight. And again, it slows your metabolism. So each time you go on a diet, you're actually doing harm to your body. And actually, it's also been found that yo-yo dieting is actually worse than just being obese. Not that I'm promoting anyone, continue to have a heavy weight or be obese. But what I'm saying is that yo-yo dieting is not good for our bodies either. So number one is recognize that diets don't work. Number two, being aware of diet mentality traits. So this is where I continued to be until I read this book, Intuitive Eating. So I knew that I could eat healthy foods, and I knew that I could allow myself play foods, which I'll talk about in another video. So I knew I could enjoy chocolate or have a little bit of ice cream here and there, but I would set rules for myself. So I would say things like, okay, I'll have a bowl of ice cream, but then I'll go to the gym longer the next day. Or I would tell myself, if I would weigh myself on the scale, and then I would say, okay, if I weigh a certain weight, then I can go ahead and eat a bigger dinner. So I still had those rules that I was creating and those diet traits of being good or being bad. If I was good, then I could get a treat, but if I was bad, then I couldn't. So getting rid of that type of mentality is the step two. Step three is get rid of the dieter's tools. So no more scales, no more counting calories. Getting rid of all that alone will lower your stress levels when it comes to eating. I know for me, I was always thinking about having to count calories and figure out, okay, how much of a certain food can I eat and that sort of thing. That was gone. That stress was gone as well. And step four is just to be compassionate towards yourself. And know that there's going to be days maybe where you're not following the other intuitive eating steps, but just maybe you binge eat, or maybe you consider that you were bad one day. And that is just be compassionate with yourself, and don't let one bad moment drag out for another week or a month. I know for me, if I went on a diet, it was an all or nothing thing. So it was, I'm gonna diet right now and I'm gonna eat healthy for the next 10 days. But if I had one bad meal on day 3, that was it. The whole diet was ruined because of that one bad moment. Instead of just saying, you know what, I ate something and I'm just gonna continue my diet the next day. And that's again why diets just don't work. It's just that mentality that you create for yourself that's just not healthy. So there you have it. That's video 1 of this 10-part series on intuitive eating, and that is rejecting the diet mentality.